30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Oh man. That's another fine landing.
Yeah, another touchdown.
Where are we?
We are in the astral plane.
Oh, the astral plane. So we've landed right where we want to be.
Got it.
Engine room, are you there? Can we get a damage report?
Yeah, the damage is irreparable.
The ship won't fly again?
No, our careers.
Oh, that makes some sense, actually. All right. Well, welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. It's great to have you guys here with us. If you're watching the show live at 30oddminutes.com, you can jump in the chat room, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere else. Email us, because we always like to get emails.
We like being stalked.
We do. We get some fun emails, and we appreciate you. Keep them coming. So, this week we are talking about astral projection. I've been interested in this topic since I was a kid. It's fascinated me, the whole idea that you can project your consciousness out of your body.
It's something I've been thinking about lately, too.
Really?
Yes, I've had some people bring some personal experiences up. Found them very interesting.
The whole idea of leaving your body?
Yeah.
Funny story. I was a kid. My dad told me a story once that he had gone through some personal issues and came out triumphant. And he was sitting on a park bench, and he told me how a friend asked him, well, how did you get through this period of your life? And my dad said he opened his mouth to answer him, and the next thing you knew, he was above himself and his friend on a bench at the tree level, looking down, watching himself have a conversation. He said he felt no fear or anything like that, and then suddenly he was back in his body. And my dad's friend just went, wow. And my dad said, I have no idea what I just said to you. And the way my dad interpreted that is God needed to send a message and needed my body temporarily, popped me out.
You step aside.
That's how my dad interpreted the situation. So, but for him, it was as real as real can be. I've always been fascinated with it. And you know who else is fascinated with it?
Dreck?
Dr. Dreck.
I knew it.
Take a look.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Dreck here, and I have just astral projected myself down to Earth. And I should be back in a few seconds to report on what happened. It's only a few seconds here, but my other self, it's been, who knows, days. Oh, here he comes now. Hey, other self, what have you been doing down on Earth? Oh boy, did I have fun. First I stole a car, and then I drove it right through a storefront window. Oh, and then I kidnapped an heiress, and I got $1 million ransom for her. And then I took that money, I blew it in Las Vegas, and then the police were just about to catch me when, boom, I'm right back here. Oh boy, well, get back into me quick. Well, I guess I can't go to Earth anymore, because I'm a wanted man. So let this be a lesson to you. When you astral project, don't be an ass.
Thank you, Dr. Dreck. Always good advice.
Guy can't stay out of trouble, I'm telling you.
I'm pretty sure that's 2 references in the last 2 weeks, but what are you going to do? All right. Can our consciousness leave our bodies and travel through time or space? The idea of astral projection or out-of-body experiences is ancient, but can just anyone do this? Tonight's guest says it's possible with a little training and hard work. He's the author of 3 books, including his latest, Adventures in the Afterlife. He's one of the leading experts on out-of-body experiences, or OBEs, and he's taught thousands of people how to travel on the astral plane. He's taught courses at the prestigious Monroe Institute, and tonight, he's all yours. Please welcome William Buhlman. William.
Welcome, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us aboard the mothership to talk about astral projection. Maybe we could start. Can you take us back to 1972 when you had your first out-of-body experience?
Well, to preface this, I was not a believer in this subject. No one could have told me that this was existed. I was not on my radar at all. And a friend of mine had a spontaneous out-of-body experience, and it changed him. It blew him open to all kinds of spirituality. And I wanted to experiment and explore the same thing, so I found out there was techniques to self-initiate it, and through a period of trial and error, I selected a technique, and I practiced it for 24 days before I had my first self-initiated experience. And it was a mind blower.
So for you, this was a conscious decision. This wasn't some accidental thing or anything like that.
Self-initiated experience.
In 24 days. So what happens what does it even feel like? What does your body go through? What sensations is it like when you first leave your body?
Well, many people, according to the surveys I've done, experience vibrations, temporarily a paralysis, a humming sensation and sound. Often there'll be a feeling of, let's just say, there's a vibrational shift that occurs, and then suddenly you just find yourself in another location separate from your body, or at least disconnected from your body. By the way, this is one of the most common paranormal experiences in the world.
Sure. No, we hear about that all the time. I mean, and that was actually my next question is, does this get confused with the dream state?
Well, it can be. It depends on your state of consciousness. There's many different kinds of state of consciousness in the physical and also in the non-physical. So it depends on how aware you are, whether it be a lucid dream, a dream state, or an out-of-body experience. It all depends on the degree or percentage of conscious awareness you have in your experience, how you perceive it.
So here's an example that I know I've heard used before, and I think a lot of us have gone through this, where you wake up in the morning and you go through whatever your first routine is of the day, go into the bathroom or whatever, and suddenly you wake up in your bed again. And you realized, well, wait a minute, I thought I'd already just got up, Bill, is that an example of a astral experience, or would you just call that a dream?
Well, it can be, and it definitely can be. Many people call that, in a way, a false awakening, or it can be a valid experience. I've received thousands and thousands of letters from people from all around the world that share experiences where they went to the bathroom or to the kitchen and tried to open the refrigerator, for instance, and the next thing they know, their hand is going through the door. And only then do they realize that, oh my goodness, this is not normal. I am out of my body. So these are very common experiences that people have. But most people just kind of slough it off. They don't really pay attention to it. But let's face it, if we're non-physical beings, and 98% of the population believes that we are spiritual or non-physical beings, isn't it natural that we would begin to, on some level, begin to experience our true self beyond the body, since the body is just a temporary vehicle we're using? So these experiences are actually quite normal. That's what I like to emphasize. Everybody thinks about them as paranormal, but they're actually normal. It's normal to experience your true self when you open to it and begin to, let's just say, experience your non-physical self.
Right.
In all kinds of ways.
So if you're consciously out of your body, can you control where you go?
Absolutely. With some training. That's one of the things I teach at the Monroe Institute, is how to not only initiate the experience, self-initiate it, but then how to control it, that is a thing that most people cannot do very well, because either their fears will take over or they'll think of their body. Remember, your thoughts are the driving force of your experience. You're in a non-physical realm that has different rules in the physical world. Thoughts are your propulsion. So if you think of your body, you're instantly, like that, back in your body. And that's what most people have a tendency to do, either out of fear or shock. But once you're trained and you begin to get knowledgeable about the subject, and it doesn't take a lot, it's just a matter of learning some basics. And once you begin to become comfortable in this expanded state, you can begin to expand it and begin to explore beyond your home, for instance. Matter of fact, there's no limits.
Right. So, Andrew, we were talking before tonight's mission about the idea of the doppelganger.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Bill, I was wondering, is it possible for a person who's wide awake, going about their daily routine, to project themselves back in another location, say back at home, and be witnessed by family members who swore that they saw them walking in the driveway when the reality was they were still out shopping and going around?
This has been reported not only in modern times but throughout history. This is it is reported quite commonly. It depends on the density of the energy body that the person is in, whether they are perceivable, let's say, by the physical inhabitants. But yes, it is reported.
So a person doesn't necessarily have to be thinking about being in another place. They can just be going about their normal day, and part of their being can project to another location?
It has been known to happen.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that common, but it has been known to occur historically. There's a famous, for life of me, I forget the name of it, but there was a famous monk that was famous for bilocating.
Right.
And he would find himself, Manuel Swedenborg, the famous Swedish mystic, was also documented being in multiple locations at the same time. So there is some historical documentation that backs up this whole concept of a doubleganger.
So a person could be absolutely unaware of the fact that they've done it while going through their normal daily routine?
That's highly unusual. Generally, it would occur while the person is sleeping.
Gotcha.
Or let's just say resting.
Oh.
That would be the normal event.
Okay,
Normally.
That's how I understood it as being. I appreciate you clearing that up.
Well,
Yes.
the fact that there's
yes, you are asleep, but your consciousness is, let's just say, maneuvering.
I mean, the fact that there's a term for it, doppelganger.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's the double, right?
Yeah.
It's been around.
It's a German term from centuries ago.
Right.
There's nothing new about out-of-body experiences. It's been recorded throughout history. I mean, this has been, matter of fact, the Bible, the Quran, these experiences are well documented throughout history. We just have changed the name and made it a little more modern. Now the term that most people use is just out-of-body experience. It's just a blanket term for any state of consciousness beyond the body. But
Now,
let's face it, we're 7 billion of us. We're all moving beyond the body. That's our natural evolutionary cycle, is to move beyond our physical body. There's no escaping that.
Right.
We're not physical beings. We're just temporarily here inhabiting a body. And all of us are moving beyond the body. That's why it's important to learn about this subject, because it impacts all of us.
Now, Bill, could you kind of contrast for us or compare the idea of, astral projection, out-of-body experience, and remote viewing, which is something we've talked about in the past? The idea of being able to see, project your consciousness to somewhere else while you're safely in another location. Is there a difference?
Yes, there is. Astral projection is an older term that was used, let's just say, more than 20 years ago.
Sure.
A term that's been around for centuries, going back to Britain and the Golden Dawn and all the psychic experiments that were done. OBE is just a general term now for the separation of consciousness from the body. Remote viewing is more of a, for lack of a better word, a visual perception, that you can go into a meditative state and begin to receive impressions of a remote location and actually record that location and let's just say the environment of that location. It's a different kind of experience.
Okay.
Even though they're related to some degree, because it still has to do with expansion of our conscious awareness beyond the limits of our body. But there is a definite difference between the two. And that is, of course, OBEs, most people actually feel the separation. That's why it's called an out-of-body, because your perception is that you're leaving your body. Right. And again, these are common experiences that all of us are going to have. Matter of fact, often when people are ill and sick, or where they're approaching, let's say, death, these experiences become very, very prevalent.
That's where I think I've heard a lot of experiences, especially the near death, right? The idea that your life is passing before your eyes, someone's about to get into a hard car car crash. They see themselves on the surgery table, those kind of experiences. I've heard lots of accounts like that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the physical trauma that startles us out of our physical bodies, or what is it related to death that wakes us up to this?
Well, it can be one of the principal, let's just say, elements of a near-death experience is an out-of-body experience, according to research by Moody and others. But it's trauma can induce the experience, yes. But you can also self-induce it.
Right.
I mean, think about it. When people are in the East, when people go into these deep meditations and they stay in these states for weeks that we all have read about, do you really think they're in their bodies? I mean, this is not just a Western phenomena. This is a universal phenomena because all of us are and will leave our physical bodies. So the more comfortable we are with it, the more knowledgeable we are, because this is an important part of our transitional experience. So why not? You know, you cover a lot of subjects. You just mentioned you had over 150 shows, which I commend you for that. But how this subject impacts everyone. All 7 billion people will have an out-of-body experience. So why should not we learn about this and become knowledgeable? Because we're not going to escape an out-of-body experience, are we? So let's not just be in fear of it.
Right.
Let's be knowledgeable so we can have what I call an enlightened transition and begin to explore our multidimensional self now, so that during this great transition of consciousness that we call death, we will know, we'll be more comfortable and knowledgeable with our environment.
Right.
This is important. This is important stuff that impacts all of us because it's totally universal.
Understood. All right, Bill, please hang with us a minute. We have to take a break for the news. When we come back, let's ask some big questions. What is consciousness? What does it mean to be out there on the astral plane? We'll be back right after the news.
A recent video has some wondering if the political tensions in the Ukraine are attracting the attention of extraterrestrials. The video was posted by the YouTube channel 07 TV on March 6, 2014, and shows what looks to be a very large cigar-shaped UFO moving through the sky. The video is said to have been shot in the city of Korosten, which is not too far from Chernobyl, the site of the infamous nuclear disaster of 1986. Former FBI Special Agent Ben Hansen, who also appears in the Sci-Fi Channel program Fact or Faked Paranormal Files, has looked at the video and says he can find no obvious clues that the image is the result of CGI trickery. However, Hansen was quick to add that one can't believe everything that is posted on the internet. The controversial website known as Turner Radio Network has come forward to suggest that this craft is a military-made anti-gravity vehicle, which they refer to as a sky dreadnought. TRN says the ship is 3,000 feet in length and can operate in both outer space and Earth's atmosphere. Sounds like someone's been watching Doctor Who. I'm Andrew Lake, and oddly enough, that's the news.
And we're back with William Buhlman. Yeah. We're talking about astral projection and out-of-body experiences.
Bill, what about the alien abduction phenomena? Do you think that has any relation to this?
Yes, I do. I presented, and I write an entire chapter in one of my books about this subject. All things are about consciousness, and we have a tendency to forget that because consciousness is the creator of our reality. And I have found, based on my research, that many of the alien abductions, if you were to read a typical alien abduction, have all the phenomena, in other words, the bright lights, the paralysis, the being moved to a new reality, go over the entire phenomena. I detail this in Secret of the Soul. It equates 100% with an out-of-body experience. Number one, when you have an OBE, you become paralyzed. You have to let go of the physical. And often there is buzzing, humming sounds. There's often a feeling of being lifted even, because your mind is interpreting the separation of consciousness. Then you find yourself in a strange, let's just call it almost alien environment that your mind can interpret as anything. Remember, our mind is very powerful. We live in a thought-responsive universe. But once you leave your body, the universe that we experience becomes progressively more thought-responsive. If you believe in alien abduction and you have an OBE, you could easily, let's just say, equate that as an abduction. You're in another environment. There's strange beings around you. You're no longer in the physical world because you're not. You're in a different dimensional reality. All of this equates exactly to an out-of-body experience. And let's look at it logically. Wouldn't it make more sense? Because alien abductions are often repetitive, are they not?
Sure.
People will have one, and they continue to have one every month, every 6 months. That is exactly the trend of an OBE. Once you open to an OBE, you continue to have OBEs. That, to me, is a much more logical, let's just say, conclusion or solution or exploration of this subject than the idea that an alien is visiting from a trillion miles away and you're so interesting that you're being visited every month.
Right.
Now, I'm not making light of it, and I'm not saying that abduction phenomena isn't also real, because I know from having out-of-body experiences that there's many different life forms. Humanoid is a minor part of the big scheme of things. And there are strange-looking beings when you leave your body occasionally. But just too often we jump to conclusions and say, I've been abducted because there's strange beings around me. I'm in a new environment. And without being open to other explanations, OBEs explain all of this phenomena extremely well, because the universe is non-physical. It's 99.9% non-physical. And when we leave our bodies, we're entering into a thought-responsive environment inhabited by many different kinds of beings that are all kinds of shapes and forms. So let's try to be open-minded in our approach to this and explore it. And I think you'd find that it lends itself to a lot of answers, because it's always about consciousness.
Sure. And what is consciousness, Bill? I mean, I know that's a question that has been, we've tried to answer that for centuries, millennia even. What does it mean? I mean, I think Therefore I Am is probably the closest I've seen to a good explanation, but what's your definition of consciousness?
Awareness.
Okay.
It's just awareness of yourself. And this exists beyond the body.
Right.
And in fact, we exist beyond our biological form. Often when I like to share just real quickly, when people have an out-of-body experience, one of the most shocking things I learned right out of the gate was we are not humans. When you have an out-of-body experience and you prolong the experience, your arms and legs will begin to melt away. Then your whole body will begin to melt away. This has been experienced by thousands and thousands of people. But once you prolong your experience, what do we become? We become a point of consciousness with 360-degree vision. That's what we truly are. We're not a physical humanoid species. We're a non-physical species using a temporary biological body to learn to grow and to experience the physical world. And this whole facade that we have identified ourselves with is not who we are at all. And consciousness exists beyond form. Consciousness exists beyond matter. And it's all form is a vehicle of consciousness, is one of the things that I and others have learned. So it's very exciting exploration, because this is, I feel, the cutting edge of true exploration, because we are non-physical and our source is non-physical. So you cut to the chase when you leave your body. You begin to go to the source of who we are. And it's very exciting, very, very exciting, because you begin to experience the answers.
Can it be dangerous, Bill, to be out there? I'm
sorry, can it be what?
Can it be dangerous to leave your body?
No, I am adamant about it. I've been having experiences for almost 41 years now. We're immortal. How can you harm conscious energy? How can you harm? Nothing in nature is destroyed. Science even tells us this.
Right.
If nothing in nature, it just changes. Everything changes. Even when you burn a log on it just changes molecularly, doesn't it?
Right.
If a plant doesn't die, it just changes, don't we? Nothing ever dies, it just changes. That's why there's nothing to fear, because that's what is death but a change, a shift of consciousness. There is no death, and there's nothing to be afraid of because we are immortal, we're powerful, we create our own reality on every level. But we have to learn to take control over our own state of consciousness and to basically grow up and to begin to explore our true self beyond the physical limits.
So, Bill, here's the million-dollar question. If projection can be controlled, this out-of-body experience, can it be proven? Could we set up a double-blinded experiment and prove to the world, yes, I can go into this next room and go through an experiment to prove this is real? Can we do that?
There have been studies that have shown this. It's a difficult thing to prove in that context because when you leave your body, what many people forget, you're entering another dimensional reality. Often when I leave my body, I don't see the physical world anymore.
Okay.
I could be floating in space, for instance, or what I would perceive as space, with no form around me at all. I could be in another whole environment. It's in other words, we're so fixated that the physical world is the center point. The physical world is the thin outer epidermis of the universe. And when we have an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience or even a death, what we're actually doing is transferring our consciousness and moving inward into the subtle interdimensional realms that unfortunately the religions have called heaven. It's not heaven, it's just another dimensional reality. And that this is where we all are headed because we are a non-physical species inhabiting a non-physical universe.
Enlightenment, right? So we're ghost guys. We've been on many a ghost hunt. And it makes me wonder when we're thinking about the ghost experience, people who perceive folks from the past. Bill, is travel into the past something that's possible?
Yes,
yeah,
time.
Is time a factor?
Time, I and others have noticed that it just doesn't exist as we perceive it. Linear time does not exist.
Sure.
So travel into the past is a very common experience. I mean, not only out-of-body experiences, I write about this, where I find myself in situations in the past. But people do this in the physical world during past life regressions. They're very common. Millions of people have been regressed into other environments and let's call it reality situations.
Right.
There's nothing new about this.
Understood. We are almost out of time. Bill Buhlman, I appreciate you being with us. The website is astralinfo.org. We'll, of course, have links to his site from ours. And the name of the book is Adventures in the Afterlife. And really interesting stuff, the whole idea of enlightenment, leaving our body and furthering our consciousness. Are you ready to try it?
Nope.
Come on. Bill, in 20 seconds, give us an experiment we can try tonight as we're laying down in bed.
As you're falling asleep, just use an affirmation. In 20 seconds, this is, now I'm out of body. And repeat it and hold that affirmation as your last conscious thought. Every time you take a nap, for instance, in the middle of the day is ideal. You focus and hold your intention as your last conscious thought. Now I am out of body. And often people, now it's about programming yourself, repetition. You can initiate an out-of-body experience by just doing an affirmation like that and holding it as your last conscious thought.
We'll try it. That's our homework. All right, folks, we are out of time. From us to you, stay odd.